What did you become addicted to after trying it? Story 1. A strange one, pulling my own hair out. Intense anxiety in my mid-20s, one day without thinking, pulled out a single hair. 4 years later, I don't go outside without topper extensions or a hat, bald patches and scruffy uneven regrowth, because I never could stop. Turns out it's a form of OCD called trichotillomania. The good news? I've finally gone my first 2 weeks pull-free. Story 2, energy drinks. Used to chug maybe 7 in a row, couldn't go a day without them. Can officially say I haven't had one in about a year now. Edit. Didn't expect this to get this much attention, but I phrased this weirdly. I didn't drink 7 every single day. My daily was usually between 1, 3, which is still terrible. 7 would be on days where I felt like absolute shit. Started drinking them in like 8th grade and managed to quit in freshman year before it got too bad. Got into a relationship a year later, and he forgot I used to be addicted, and he brought Red Bulls over to my house. That was the start of the I need at least 2 of these a day to function. Felt the need to clear that up. Sorry for any confusion. For those of you asking how I quit, I went cold turkey. Story 3. Painkillers. For years, I couldn't sleep because I was working too hard and my body was in pain. So after a surgery to ease the pain, they gave me some pain pills, and before I knew it, I was addicted. They just made me feel so fucking good that it got its hooks in me hard. They solved all my problems and all I had to do was give it everything I had. Story 4, throwaway. Sex, unfortunately. It's just a whole new level of serotonin between the sensations and the idea of being desirable. I'm not out here trying to hit everyone I see or anything. In fact, I probably have less sex than people who aren't addicted BC. I refuse to be intimate with strangers, though it's hard finding friends who are down to have benefits without one or both taking it too seriously. But I have to say, 99.999999% of my self-worth comes from not just who's willing to sleep with me, but from who wants to sleep with me that I want to sleep with me. It's led to a lot of damaging situations and an irreparable self-hatred, and I'm too ashamed to talk about it to a therapist. Story 5. PHO. I thought it would be fishy. Finally broke down and tried it. I could eat PHO every day. After that first time, I went through like a solid year of having for lunch 2x a week plus a weekend trip. I could have a PHP-focused YouTube channel if you had a specific thing you like about it, like saw you're a big, clear consume person. I'd know like 10 places top of my head. It was crazy for a while. Story 6, coffee. My immediate family didn't drink coffee. We didn't have a coffee maker or any other related supplies or products. I was 17. One of my aunts flew in to visit. She was a coffee drinker. I was tasked with driving her to acquire her supplies for the week's stay. Enter coffee. We bought all the coffee products, the cheap coffee maker, the filters, the powdered creamer, the sugar, and finally the coffee. I didn't pay attention to any of this really. I was just plopping things in the cart as instructed and chatting. That evening was mostly uneventful, except the part where I was forced to sleep in the same room as my brother. But that's another story. Cue next morning. The dank aroma of brewing coffee, something I'd never experienced before, punched me in my nose holes. Full-on aroma punch to the senses. I didn't know it was coffee. I just knew that whatever that heavenly stank was, that I needed it. My aunt heavily doctored my coffee with powdered abomination and sugar, and I was hooked. Cue 20 years later, and now there's a tea addiction instead. But that's another story. Story 7. Self-harm. I used to make barcodes on my arms as a coping mechanism. Then I got fixated on how it felt. It was like a fucking high, knowing what I was doing to myself was entirely in my control. I grew up in an abusive home. Once I finally moved out, I got the courage to stop, but man, for a while I was afraid I wouldn't ever be able to. Self-harm free for 6 years and counting. Asterisk. If you self-harm, please reach out to someone for help. No matter what you're going through, there is always another way to deal. Story 8. I think for me, for a long time, it was porn. My family was really conservative, so the curiosity about porn led to me getting addicted to porn and masturbation. And it was so late as well. I was so addicted between the age of 17 to 21. I was a brilliant student and athlete before that. But then my mind got corrupted by that. I was thinking about porn all the time. These were the years I should have been really focusing on building something better or improving myself. But I somehow pulled back out of it. After I had lost all my reputation I had as a great communicator, a brilliant student, and an amazing athlete. I think conservative families lack in this. I wish I had parents to tell me about how my body functions, and if I should be masturbating a lot. I regret every second of those years. I feel bad for every young guy who's addicted to this. Story 9. Golf. I'm almost 38 and never played up until a few months ago. I used to be one of those guys who thought it was an elitist sport and whatnot. However, once you actually get out on a course and start hitting that dumb ball around, it's actually pretty cathartic. Plus, it gets you outside and is a great excuse to ignore your phone for 4-5 hours. It has become the place I'm able to calm my mind surprisingly. Granted, it can get expensive, so it is still relatively elitist. If you look for deals and get secondhand equipment, it can actually be sort of affordable though. Story 10. Dextromethorphan. First time in early 2020, very confusing, weird, icky, interesting. Maybe syrup will be better than gels. Second plus third time. Whoa, incredibly high, floating outside my body. Music sounds fucking insanely cool. This actually kinda awesome. I feel intellectually disabled, but numb to every single emotion and negative thought that usually runs through my head throughout the day. Let's see what 3RD plat is like. 4, the 10, the time. Holy shit! I didn't know a human could get this high. Absolutely blasted, fried, unable to speak but feeling numb and two-dimensional, sometimes 1D like a literal flatline, is ducking fascinating. Viewing myself outside of my body, let me jazz it up. Let me try Delsim. 2 and 3 RD plat doses of DXM plus 2 GS shrooms, 3 gel tabs of LSD, Benadryl, stolen liquor, red mangda, etc. Never been so blasted, disconnected, plus forgetful of my entire existence before. I can think about one single thing at a time. Visual trails, music euphoria. I look like a zombie alien tweaker on the verge of death, but this is fun. 11:30 the time, 2021. Damn, this is easy to steal. Please don't be an irresponsible dumbass like I was. 3 bottles, 1 coat, 2 or 3 stores in a day. Easy jug, I'm getting sky high for free. It's everywhere, this shithole reliable when I don't have weed. 31:40 the time, tolerance builds, diminishing returns, not as magical plus mind-blowing. More physically uncomfortable, and I start to vomit every time, unlike every other time beforehand. At this point, I feel noticeably slower, kinda stupid. I've got a nice new intermittent stutter, lasting balance, plus coordination issues, inability to recall words, poor enunciation make, and frequent typos. 2022 serotonin syndrome. 1,300 milligrams, SSRIs in the same day, XXX. Damn, I might die. Constant vomiting, intense burning and itching over every inch my body, mini seizures, constant muscle spasms. My legs are involuntarily flopping and raising, afraid of having a heart attack, etc. ER visit. $1,500 bill for an IV of fluids and ambulance ride. Damn, that was bad. I'm gonna take less next time. Steals cough syrup on the clock. Downs 2 bottles a couple days while at work. 41:60 the time, 2022 to 2023. Fuck it, it's awesome, free, everywhere. All reliable, eh? I've forgotten my personality, lost my charisma, my musical ability has stagnated and suffered, became super spaced out, depressed, isolating heavy BC. I don't know how to talk to people, how to be myself in social settings, and how to hold a conversation deeper than small talk. But hey, I got astronomically high, often for free, fried my brain, lost myself in the sauce, and became a recluse over the years, but it was cool, right? Steals cough medicine plus alcohol from my new grocery store job within 3 days of working. 2 rehabs, I'm binging triple C's for weeks at a time in the halfway house and get kicked out after 80 days. Late 2023 present, still recovering, 6 weeks clean. Underscore. Brain is slowly recovering and I remember myself now. Stop shoplifting. If you have an addicting personality or already existent or underlying mental illness, I would strongly suggest you steer clear of tripping on cough medicine. Most can control their use, but pseudoscientifically about 1/3 RD of people who try it end up loving it plus getting a little deep into it. Do better than me. Don't get lost in generic Tucson. And if you do, Don't develop a shoplifting habit, plus risk your record for $1 7 bottles of medicine like I did. Stay up, fellow Redditors. If you're struggling with substance abuse and still on this side of the dirt, it's never too late to recover. Story 11. Nasal spray. Using it over the course of one cold led to a 5-year addiction where I would go through 2-3 bottles a week. Got to the point where I needed it every 2 hours or I'd have massive congestion. I remember going to a Buffalo Bills game where I lost it on the way there, and it was a miserable 4 hours. I decided to go cold turkey one weekend where I made no plans, and for the first half day I wanted nothing more than to give up and just go buy some. The rebound congestion was unbelievably painful, and it felt like I couldn't breathe, even though I could through my mouth without issue. I'll never ever use the stuff again. Story 12. This is stupid, but food addiction is real and scary. I think I'm out now, but I can't guarantee how fast it takes to get back in. I mean, even some weeks with pain and flu, and the only thing I want to do is eat for comfort. I had to take specific meds that trigger my nausea, plus sense of being full faster. I had to kick out salt and sugar triggers by eating spicy or bland food. I have to eat always foods that makes me full faster and reassociate fullness with discomfort and not comfort. Once the tastes gets used to the new salt-sugar levels, fruit or very small amounts of real sugar, sweeteners work differently. The body will get back in track on its own. In a way, it's like any other kind of addiction, and the physical withdrawal is similar as well. Probably the only difference is that food is liberally accepted in our society. It's the groundstone for many social events and meetings, and you have to eat to live, so you can't quit the trigger. Story 13. Nose spray. Use on average 3 bottles a week and have been for 20 years, more or less. Which is really hard to believe since I don't think I've even been alive long enough to have done something for 20 years. But I am 33 and started when I was 13, so I guess it's about right. Good Lord. Story 14. I'm not sure if any of my parents or great-grandparents, etc. had an affinity to substances, but nearly any substance I've touched, I've abused and become addicted. To name a few: alcohol, weed, codeine, pills, morphine pills, Ativan, Valium, and probably a few more. When I say addicted, I mean I would abuse in excess and would be near suicidal without it. Thankfully, I am now sober from nearly that whole list. The old devil's lettuce is a hard one to kick for me, and feeling much better. TLDR used to be white trash junkie, now sober. Story 15. A lot of things. When I started smoking cigarettes, I originally had no interest in it. My friend's peer pressured me into taking a drag, and it was gross. Next week, I bought a pack, and I didn't quit until 6 years later. Painkillers was another. I got injured doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, was given an enormous bottle of Vicodin. One day, I ran out of weed and used the pills to get high. A couple months later, I bought some morphine. It made me feel like absolute trash, and I quit. Spice was the worst. Same thing. Ran out of weed. My friend offered to smoke some K2 with me and another friend. I didn't really even like it. Went to the smoke shop and bought a bag anyway. Stopped smoking normal weed and became a spice zombie. It's absolutely terrible. It makes you pass out and have sleep paralysis nightmares. Ended up stealing from my family to buy a bag, and the guilt from that made me stop. I almost became an alcoholic too. I would drink every now and then, but that turned into a beer every night, to multiple beers every night, and I just said, we aren't doing this again. Now I don't do anything. I ain't got time for any of that nonsense. Drugs and alcohol exposed me to a lot of awful people and experiences. Not worth it. Story 16. Tobacco. I can't get rid of tobacco because I don't want to get rid of it. I've also tried marijuana, but I would never do any derg other than tobacco. I would rather try the shit than a drug which messes with my cognitive abilities. Psychoactive drugs and psychedelics destroys our most useful organ, the brain. Story 17. Snowboarding. There is just a freedom in being on top of a mountain in a beautiful environment, snowboarding down thinking about nothing but what you're doing, and camping. Sitting by a campfire with friends drinking is one of the most addicting and enjoyable things. Story 18. Caffeine was my first drug. I tried to quit caffeine when I was in my teens because I realized I have problems with it. That was 40 years ago. Since then, I've quit tobacco, weed, alcohol, and kratom. Still working on quitting caffeine. Still have problems with it, but now my regular doctor and cardiologist are saying I need to quit. Kind of scary if you think about it. Still haven't been able to quit. Story 19. Weed man, I just quit 9 days ago because of a dream job offer. Now I'll be honest, if you posted this 10 days ago, I would have never stated that I'm addicted to weed. But fuck, my withdrawals were god-awful. 3 straight days of throwing up whatever I put in my stomach. Burned the heck out of my throat because of all the stomach acid I was vomiting. I'm still extremely nauseous to this day, and wasn't able to eat anything besides yogurt for a week. It's now been 9 days, and fuck, I feel so much better, but never will I convince myself again that I'm not addicted to something. Weed isn't bad. I used it for chronic pains and night terrors I received after serving. Hence the reason I always convinced myself it's not an addiction. Peas. If anyone ever struggles with an addiction, please don't be afraid of help. And please don't deny yourself of being addicted. Peas, love you all. Story 21. Warhammer Miniatures LOL. Got probably a combined total of like 20K in value of stuff. I blame my friend from primary school. When we were 18, he got me into it. 10 years in now and not stopping LOL. But it's something I'm glad I'm hooked on because it's made for a great connector for how I've strengthened friendships or lit a fire under some that would have fizzled otherwise, as I've been able to share my collection with them for games, and I bring it all with me. What's the point of such a large collection if no one ever gets to enjoy it after all? Story 22. Unpopular answer, fandom. Financial domination. I started as a content seller on Reddit and OnlyFans, and I made pretty good money, enough to pay taxes on. And one day, one of my subs messaged me and was like, I want to give you all of my money, just tell me when to send. He walked me through my first drain, and after a couple $100, he called it a night. The next day, I waited until about 3 p.m. and messaged him send, and he immediately did. It was all downhill from there. Story 23. My phone and soda. I easily spend an entire day on my phone. Couldn't tell you what I've been doing or 95% of the things I've seen or read at the end of it. And hate the fact I've wasted my entire day just looking at this stupid rectangle. I'm at work and running really behind, but I've been on my phone for 20 minutes and I only looked at my phone to respond to my mom's text. I'm on this damn thing all the time, and when I try to spend more time away from my phone, it works for a little bit. But then I'm right back to wasting so much time on it. As for soda, I try to be conscious of how much I drink, but I let my diligence slip in the slightest. Then it's all downhill. I'll have a sip of water, then drink like a fish, and realize I haven't had any water in like 3 days. It's all been soda. Story 24. Feeling something. I'd been numb growing up, just feeling nothing at all. It started with touching girls and them touching me. That was wonderful. Then to have that more, I started exercising, and that didn't feel good, but it made girls want me. Then one introduced me to pot, and holy shit, I felt something that didn't require being liked, just bought. When that was normalized, I moved on to harder things just to feel something. Fell in love with cocaine, though. I liked how it made me feel, and I could give it a break, and it didn't last forever like other stuff. The pandemic struck, and I went on a bender, probably half an ounce that week, and had a heart attack, and for the first time in my life, I felt fear. I quit everything and haven't been inebriated since, just numb again, wanting to feel something. Story 25. When I was 19, a friend introduced me to this stuff that he called Molly. I did some and became a superhuman. I couldn't sleep for 2 days and had never experienced myself to be so talkative and sociable, relatable to any and everyone I came across. Not only that, but it relinquished my tendency to be self-conscious and overthink everything that I spoke. That alone was something that ended up making me say awkward shit, which was what I was attempting to avoid in the first place. Losing the filter on how I articulated my thoughts and feelings made me into what many people called real and blunt, a real tells it like it is type of guy. It also took my ability to make people laugh to a new level. I was quick as a whip and could counter even the most clever jokes or playful attacks with lightning speed and precision. This Molly stuff was absolutely incredible. I had to get more, so I did. Then I did again, and yes, again, until I found out it was something completely different called methamphetamine. At first it was obvious to the ones close to me, but after several years and many nights of practicing keeping my jaw still, not holding my eyes open wide, looking bugged the fuck out. I have learned to blend back in with regular people. Now no one has a clue, and my family and friends tell me they are so glad I came out of it unscathed.